Welcome, everybody, to Sports on Tap. This is a special episode. We are coming to you live. If you're with Josh right now, you are in the draft room. This is a 2025 mock draft performed by your favorite hosts from Sports Tap. My name is Ed Dick, alongside Rob Troutman, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, and Noah Jacobson. The six of us, we're going to go through the first round of the NFL draft and wrap up with the first pick that the Browns have in round two. And we're super excited to do this. We're taking a break from our life with the high school sports, which make sure you're checking us out on all the social medias, and on X, on sports on X, on Facebook, on our website. Right now, we have a lot of good stuff going on with lacrosse, with baseball, thanks to Noah, softball, and also with the girls flag football league that's just started up here a few weeks ago. So we have a lot of content coming out about that as well. So props to the guys for going out there and getting some more publicity for a fast-growing sport that is girls flag football. But tonight, it's going to be all about us tonight. And we are each going to go through Josh. Quite honestly, this is Josh's idea. And so we're super excited to carry that out. So we're going to start with, Josh randomly assigned who we were going to draft for. It's kind of, so he assigned that Rob, for example, is going to draft first. So he will have the pick for the Tennessee Titans. And then it'll wrap back around, similar. He'll have the 7th pick after that, and then the 13th pick, so on and so forth. So that's how it's going to work, and we will provide a little bit of analysis, but we want to try to keep this moving as much as we can. We don't want to be like the Minnesota Vikings from multiple years ago, where they just continue to miss their picks. So that worked out so well for them. So without further ado, I think let's just get into it here. We want to thank you for watching us. You're watching this live on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, get the notifications. We're about to go on the air. Those of you who prefer to listen to us, we are on Spotify. So make sure you check us out on Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. We're also on YouTube, on Sports on Tap, podcast.com. Run threads at SOT_podcasts, Facebook, and X, of course, as well. All right. Well, with that, you know what, Josh? I think it's only right that you open up the draft for us. So if you will, Commish, the real commissioner of our SOT Fantasy Football League.
Oh, wow.
For the 2025 mock draft. Josh?
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate you all for being here today. It took a while to get to Green Bay, but they've done a lovely job here with the draft setup. So with that being said, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. Rob Troutman will be drafting for the Titans, and he is on the clock.
That is correct, Josh, and it's the Titans. Let's get that right. We're from Tennessee.
What did I say?
The Titans. I don't
Titans,
know. It
yeah,
sounded
Titans.
weird. But no, let's get into it first. You know, there's a lot of talk about the first pick and which way the Titans will go. It's pretty much a done deal here. Will Levis, they've been trying to trade him, trying to get him out of there. They need a quarterback, and they're going to stick with Cam Ward at number 1. So the number 1 pick is Cam Ward from the University of Miami. This is a guy that, is impressive. He can scramble. He can run. He can throw on the run, a strong arm. A lot of coaches and front office execs said he did a great job during the interview process. I think he's going to be a good fit. Now, if it was any other year, would he be the number 1 pick? I'm not so sure, but this is a draft where the Titans need to get it right. They're going to go with the best quarterback in this draft, and that's Cam Ward of Miami.
Very good. All right. So Cam Ward off the board. I think, as you mentioned, that was probably a foregone conclusion. He is by way of Incarnate Word, Washington State, and Miami. So he's obviously seen a lot of football, a couple different systems, and that's a good pick for Tennessee. All right. Well, with that, that leads into the number 2 pick, which for our hometown Cleveland Browns, which
What's he gonna do?
I am lucky enough to be the selector for the number 2 pick, and it's man, I got a lot. This is a tough one, especially with the news that of us just signing Joe Flacco here. I do not believe they're going to go quarterback in number 2, and I am on the fence about this one. It's a 50-50, but I'm going to go with the best athlete on the board, and hopefully they can figure it out. It's going to be Travis Hunter, the Heisman Trophy winner from Colorado by way of Jackson State, cornerback, wide receiver. He is he's a true Chuck Bednarik, a two-way player. I know that we are looking at him possibly as a wide receiver, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have a lockdown corner if you want to throw him that way either. In fact, I did a little homage to draft day, and I wrote Travis Hunter, no matter what.
Nice.
So Travis Hunter from Colorado is a Cleveland Brown.
That's I like that pick. And when they signed Flacco just last week, the thoughts of him slinging the ball around to Jerry Jeudy and Travis Hunter, along with Njoku in there, Cedric Tillman. I like that aspect right now. And then have a quarterback possibly with the second round pick. We'll have to wait and see. Sean's got that one later on in the draft. We'll have to see what happens there. But good pick, Ed. I like it.
I appreciate that. And with that, we're going to move over to the aforementioned champion. My cohort, my compadre, my colleague, Sean Duffy. He's got number 3 for the New York Giants.
Also, your champion, Ed. Never forget.
Okay,
guys.
So not have been listening.
I literally said that.
Yeah, I know. I like repeating it.
All right.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun for me. It's
All
the
right.
little joys in life. So this is the all important how this draft is going to go. There now I could go one of two ways here. Obviously, the quarterback from Colorado, Shedeur Sanders, is available for a team like the New York Giants, who are in need of a quarterback. They've parted ways with Daniel Jones. That experiment is over. They brought on Russell Wilson on a one-year contract. Also brought on a former Cleveland Browns starting quarterback in Jameis Winston. So where does this team go? And there's two ways they can go. They can go quarterback if they were available, but they could also go top-tier defensive linemen. And when you look at the Giants' defensive line, you see greatness in the making. Dexter Lawrence, Ledbetter, Jordan Riley. These are guys that are really good and were really good last year. I mean, say what you want about the Giants. They were very good defensively last year. They were in a lot of games. So what do? I think they stick to their guns. I don't think they were enamored with any of these quarterbacks outside of a Cam Ward. I think they're following suit. They're sticking with their plan. I say they take Abdul Carter, Penn State defensive lineman. This guy is an animal. This guy played on a broken foot in the semifinals against Notre Dame. I watched every single one of those snaps that he played. You couldn't see the fall off with this guy. He was a disruptor. He was a sack machine. And guess what? I think he has the ability to not only play defensive end on the edge, I think you could kick him down and he's a force in the middle too. I think you could give him a situation where you could put him in certain respects in a maybe even an outside linebacker and play a little bit of flat coverage. I think he has that ability. Again, with the injury, you want to wait and see because those stress fractures, we've seen it with guys like Jadeveon Clowney and things like that. They never really get better. They just kind of learn how to manage it. But I think this guy's young enough. He's an animal. I like this pick for the New York Giants. Abdul Carter, defensive end, Penn State.
There you go.
There you have it. Champ has spoken. Abdul Carter from Penn State going to the New York Giants. All right, let's shift over to the AFC East. We have Noah Jacobson making the pick for the New England Patriots. New England Patriots, man. Number 4 overall. Noah, who do you got?
Well, thank you, Ed. And this season, it's a new era for the New England Patriots under new head coach and former player Mike Vrabel. And he's going to be learning under a second-year quarterback, Drake May, because I feel like last year was a good season, but I feel like he really needs help on the offensive line. So who do the New England Patriots take? they take Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU, because I feel like Drake May needs more protection to get him out of the ball more quicker. And I feel like Campbell, as safe and steady of a player he is, he will still be improving. But I feel like Will Campbell will be a great protection for Drake May for his future and long term for the New England Patriots under Mike Vrabel.
Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU, going to help out Coach Vrabel and Drake May for the Patriots. All right, number 5. We go to the commish himself, and he's got the background to prove it. He is drafted number 5 overall for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Josh Jeffy, take this one away.
Thanks, Ed. Will Campbell was a selection that I really had in mind for Jacksonville. They need help everywhere. They're awful on offense. Trevor Lawrence last year got hurt. They do have kind of a bright spot on my fantasy team, maybe a keeper this year, Brian Thomas Jr., stud wide receiver. He had a great rookie year last year, but their defense, Jacksonville's defense, was awful. In fact, they were ranked 31st overall in total defense, 32 against the pass, 25th against the rush. I'm looking to start in the trenches for the Jags, and we're going to go with Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. The dude is just, he's not a sexy pick by any stretch of the imagination, but he's the guy who could play 10 years and be a staple for that defensive line. So Mason Graham, welcome to Jacksonville, homie.
Yeah, he stops the run. I mean, he's a gap stopper there, and he showed it during the Ohio State game. They couldn't get a running game. He's just all over the field and makes plays. So that's a good pick for Jacksonville.
Sure is. You know what, Rob? How about we roll into we'll roll it into number 6. We will have he's got the Las Vegas Raiders under new coach Pete Carroll. Who do you got pairing up with Coach Carroll there, Rob?
And I've been flip-flopping a little bit on this one with the Las Vegas Raiders. Right now they need a better secondary. Secondary-wise, they were pretty weak, but they've also lost a lot on offense. They have Jacoby Myers, but he's a number 2 wide receiver. They got Geno Smith in there now at quarterback. I keep going between, a defensive back and a wide receiver. I think the wide receiver, though, gets their hands on the ball a little more. I'm going to go with, and I'll probably not say his name right, Tetiaro McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. He's the number 2 wide receiver in this class. He's a wide receiver 1. He's 6'5", 212 pounds, ran a 4.5. Good hands, good route running ability, and I think really for the Las Vegas Raiders, they're going to probably take some corners in this draft, but I think you got to get that offense going. You have a quarterback that you're paying some money to now. Let's put some weapons around. Jacoby Myers is a really good weapon. They have Brock Bowers there. All of a sudden, now you got some weapons on that offense. You can get some good corners even deep into a draft. So I could see them going wide receiver here. And Tetiaro McMillan is my selection.
Well, that throws my board off a smidge. I was going to have him. He was going to be my pick for the New York Jets they're losing some receivers. They need another stud receiver to pair with Garrett Wilson. Alan Lazard is a little long in the tooth there, and with a new running back, with a new quarterback in Justin Fields, they need some more dynamic playmakers. So that was a good pick in order to, if nothing else, but to kind of put the onus back on me for something else here. So some of the other needs for the New York Jets, you need to be able to stand him up too. You need to find a way to keep Justin Tucker, or keep Justin Fields on his 2 feet. A tight end is also a number 1, is also a need there. So with that, I am going to go with from the University of Missouri, Armand Membu from Missouri, offensive tackle. It will be a New York Jet to help keep Justin Fields and open up some holes for Breece Hall as well. So it's going to be Armand Membu from Missouri for me.
Very nice. Good pick there, especially, like I say, he's got size. You can never go wrong. You got to protect the quarterback, especially when you got Justin Fields now back there. 6'3", 314. So a good pick there, Ed, to stabilize that offensive line.
Yeah, and a new coach coming from Detroit. They how they build it up in Detroit. They went again with the trenches. So not a Aaron Glenn, not a surprise there going with the offensive line to kind of beef that up.
Absolutely. All right, let's shift over. The number 8 pick is going to be handled by Sean, and it's for the Carolina Panthers.
And the Carolina Panthers, a team that, much like a lot of these teams at the top half of the draft, need a lot of help. But again, you can't go wrong stockpiling defensive ends. And I know I'm kind of like a broken record here, but you really want to make sure you're making your defensive trenches as good as possible. We saw how good the Philadelphia Eagles were this year, winning the Super Bowl with a fantastic defense to complement a really, really potent offense. I'm going to have the Carolina Panthers take edge rusher Jalen Walker out of Georgia. This guy is a hybrid front seven defender. He lines up both as an inside linebacker, but can also play the edge, which gives you a little bit of versatility in that Carolina defense. He gets off the ball really quick. We saw it all year. We saw it in the SEC championship game. He was, again, disruptive. He was he has very active hands, and he's also a really good run defender. And that's something that I think, a lot of teams will say, oh, yeah, he's an edge rusher, so he gets to the passer. If you watch the tape, if you watch the highlights, he was very, very instrumental in helping the Bulldog defense stop the run against teams like Alabama, against teams like Boise State, against teams that had really good, running backs and had a really good run offense. He was the catalyst for how well that Georgia defense played again on the run. So you get a little bit of both with this guy. Inside linebacker that can help stop the run, also got an edge rusher on the outside to pressure the quarterback.
Excellent pick. Excellent pick for Carolina. And their defense over the last few years hasn't exactly been world stoppers either. So in order to give Bryce Young a good opportunity to succeed on offense, you got to be able to get after the quarterback on the defensive end. And Jalen Walker will certainly help out with Carolina there. All right, let's moving on to New Orleans. New head coach Kellen Moore, and Noah Jacobson's got that pick.
Absolutely, Ed. And, kind of like New England, a new era, new head coach for the New Orleans Saints. And Kellen Moore comes in for Philadelphia after winning the Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator. And this year, he's got a new defensive coordinator, Brandon Staley, who was the Chargers head coach and now is the defensive coordinator. And I feel like he's going to get a great versatility player for the major weapon for this New Orleans Saints. So Jihad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama, is my pick for the New Orleans Saints because I feel like he has the versatility to be a major weapon for a creative defensive coordinator like Brandon Staley, who's been around a lot of great players on defense as his time as a defensive coordinator before. So I feel like he's going to get a great weapon for this New Orleans Saints defense and for Coach Kellen Moore for this Saints team.
It'll be good that Brandon's Coach Staley, who is from Ohio and who's a pretty relatively local dude, but I don't really agree with anything he did as a coach of the Chargers. So he won't be able to go for it on fourth down every time like he did. He won't have that ability. But having a guy like Jihad Campbell to help bolster that defense is a really good pick. So Jihad Campbell from going to New Orleans by way of Alabama. All right,
but before we move on, that's an interesting pick, especially with the news coming out of New Orleans lately over the past just day or two, was the fact that Derek Carr might be missing, maybe possibly all of next season. So now we're starting to see a lot of people kind of put Shedeur Sanders here at number 9 to the Saints as a possible first-round pick for them. So that's something to watch. But I agree with Noah. You can never go wrong with building up a defense too for that. Oh, I guess you want me to stay, Ed? I mean, because I'm next on the pick. I got the Chicago Bears here, and the way that the board is falling for the Bears could not be more perfect. The Bears this year, this offseason, invested heavily in the offensive line, trying to protect last year's number 1 pick, Caleb Williams. They signed 2 offensive linemen, traded for another one, but what they're missing most is that stud running back. And the one that's out there right now is one of the top players in the board. and that's Ashton Genty out of Boise State. The dude was a Heisman contender, one of the finalists. He's a ultimate playmaker. He is stout. He can catch the ball. He can make people miss, make people bounce off. I think the Bears will be running to the podium if this happens. On a side note, another option I was looking at also is Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end. He would have been fit perfect next to Cole Kmet. That would have made a pretty good staple of tight ends for the Bears. But with the 10th pick, the Chicago Bears are selecting Ashton Genty.
I was looking at him. I was wondering if he was going to slip past Chicago because that was more than likely going to be the pick that I also was going to have at 12. That is a fantastic.
And new head coach Ben Johnson loves versatility in the running back room.
Exactly.
And you get a guy like him, and that's like having Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery wrapped up in one. The guy runs fast, so yeah, if he's there at 10. I don't even think they answer the phone if someone calls to trade up. I think they run as fast as they can to turn that card in.
I agree.
Absolutely. Excellent pick there by Josh for the Chicago Bears. Let's go to pick number 11 from it'll be Rob drafting for San Francisco. Rob, what do you got?
Yeah, and the 49ers need a lot. Their wide receiver. They lost Deebo Samuels. They lost some different offensive weapons, but their offensive line has really taken a hit. But I think it's a little bit too early for them to take, an offensive lineman here. A lot of the good ones kind of went, I would say, for them, defensive end, defensive tackle, somewhere in there makes sense here for the best player. James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee is a defensive end to go outside with Joey Bosa. I think you add to that front line on defense for San Francisco, and all of a sudden their defense is going to be solid there. Obviously, they got to address the offensive line at some point here because they need to protect the quarterback. Center is a huge thing for them this year, so they'll probably draft a center and some offensive line pieces, but you need some really good players, and at this point, go on defense and secure that defense. James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee's 6'5", 243, very fast and physical, and he has wreaked havoc early on for Tennessee. He was solid this year, and I think he'll be really good when you pair him with Joey Bosa.
No doubt. And if there's a team that likes getting after the quarterback, and especially if they're able to get after him with only 4 rushers, San Francisco certainly likes to play in that. In that realm. I think that's a great pick for San Francisco. If the board falls that way for the Niners. All right, that brings it to the Dallas Cowboys, the number 12th pick. That will be handled by myself, and similar to that of they've lost some big name talent on the offensive end as of late, and that includes in the receiver room right now. Their best receiver is CeeDee Lamb, really with no what I wouldn't consider a slam dunk number 2 option, and with the way likes to get the ball in Dak's hands and let him throw the ball around. I think they need another target, and I think that target's going to be Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden is going to be the selection there for the Cowboys. My computer is running extremely slow right now. Probably have too many tabs open. But Matthew Golden will be my selection at wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys.
Interesting.
That's a good pick.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys need wide receivers. I mean, you can get some weapons for Dak this year. They could be an explosive offense that obviously has the opportunity for that. So Matthew Golden, he was solid at Texas too. A lot of great catches. He was the number 1 there. He'll be an important part of that Dallas offense.
All right, let's kick it over to the Miami Dolphins from the AFC East, and they are going to be drafted by Sean Duffy. What do you got, Sean?
Well, it's a tough go of it down in South Beach right now. They got a quarterback that's injury prone. There's a pretty high profile quarterback available that I don't think a lot of people expected to be available here at this position, which I think would give the brass in Miami pause to say, okay, let's look at this and say, Tua Tagovailoa, great player, but the story on him is the injury story, and how many more concussions can he really have? And are you comfortable putting that into play? Do you want to take a shot here? Um, on the flip side, you look at their defense, and you have a solid, a Hall of Fame level corner in Jalen Ramsey. What would be good for that? Pairing him with another young, hungry corner. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I think what my gut's telling me that Miami is going to take Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan, to pair on the other side of Jalen Ramsey. Just really shoring up that defensive secondary, because we see it. I mean, look, Mike McDaniel is a great coach, and I think, again, if they get to pick 13 and Shedeur Sanders is there, I think they're probably fielding offers for that pick. I also think that they're going to have a legitimate discussion about Tua Tagovailoa and whether or not they want to pull the trigger on this kid and take him, because I think you put Shedeur Sanders in a Mike McDaniel offense, it could be something interesting. But I think they also say, well, wait a minute, let's make sure we got a lockdown corner on one end and take some pressure off of him with another corner, and that frees up your safeties, that frees up your linebackers, and that really makes it difficult for opposing teams to throw the ball down the field when you got a guy like Will Johnson, who by all accounts probably could have came out last year, would have been a top 10 pick or a first round pick. And I think because of the way that Michigan played and their record, kind of got overlooked, because, again, he was going up against some really good receivers in the Big Ten, but also, again, the team wasn't playing well. So that solid play from their national championship season and into this season that continued. But again, they maybe not the iron. The iron wasn't very hot for him. But congratulations. I think Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan, is now a Miami Dolphin at pick number 13. Yahtzee.
That's a good pick. I mean, Will Johnson, if he lasts that long, and you know what? I skipped him over. He was probably one of the picks that I thought about, for the Las Vegas Raiders. I think he would have fit in nice there at corner, because he's a solid, shutdown corner that they could use. But if he lasts this long to Miami, I mean, that would be a no-brainer there.
All right, let's kick that. We're going to head over to Indianapolis from the AFC South. Noah Jacobson's got this pick for the Colts. Noah, take it away.
Well, guys, the Colts, for the second straight year under Shane Steichen, finished second place and missed out on the playoffs. So this season, it's all about Anthony Richardson, but he's got a new quarterback to be with. He's got Daniel Jones, who comes over from the Minnesota Vikings, and it's going to be a little bit of competition. But I feel like this team needs some help at quarterback with some easy completions, and I feel like this guy is going to help this team out a lot on offense. So with the 14th pick, the Colts will take Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State, because I feel like he can provide them with a lot of energy, with a lot of completions. And I feel like he could also be an asset into the run game that could really help Jonathan Taylor really get a great season out of him. So I feel like Tyler Warren is a great pick for Shane Steichen and this Colts offense to really help out, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones at quarterback in 2025.
Yeah, that's definitely a no-brainer of a pick, Noah. That's a good job. I'm surprised that he lasted this long, but I'm sure he wouldn't have lasted much longer after this. He's just too unique of a talent at that tight end position. And as we see, tight ends now, with Trey McBride getting paid this offseason, they are becoming a very important part of teams' offenses. And I love to see it. Give me a good tight end on a team, and you could go far.
Yeah, no doubt. And Josh, just to stick with you here for the number 15 pick overall, the Atlanta Falcons. What do you got?
Yeah, the Falcons were kind of a weird team last year. Started the season with Kirk Cousins, was scoring points a lot, and then Kirk Cousins kind of got hurt, and then he had a terrible second half of the season. And then Michael Penix Jr., the 8th pick from last year, very surprising pick last year, came in and played very well for the Falcons. Their team needs, looking at them, their offense is pretty solid. You got Drake London, on the wide receiver end. You got Bijan Robinson, the all-world back that they have there. So I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball, and this team desperately needs a pass rusher. So with the 15th pick, I'm going to go with the top pass rusher defensive end on my board, and that's going to be Mike Green out of Marshall. This guy's got a high motor. He can really get to the quarterback. Not only can he get to the quarterback, though, he can play the run as well. But they're looking for someone who could really get after that quarterback. And he's the guy that I have tops on my board currently. And I'm going to go Mike Green for Marshall.
I think there's a school that a team that's not too far from Marshall that would have very much appreciated having that pick available to them, which I will may or may not have to get into in a couple picks, but that is a fantastic pick for Atlanta. They were definitely a Jekyll and Hyde team last year. You didn't know who was going to show up at a given time. Whether if the offense showed up, the defense didn't. If the defense showed up, the offense didn't. I think it's a very safe pick for Atlanta. All right, we're going to go back around the rotation. Number 16, the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock, and they are being drafted by Rob Troutman. Rob, what do you got?
That's right, Ed. And, with Arizona, they struggled in that secondary. They had Garrett Williams, a cornerback that played really well for them last year. But they struggled defensively really to hold teams, and a lot of teams had a lot of success passing on the Arizona Cardinals. So on my board, and he's still available, is Jahdae Barron from cornerback out of Texas. I believe that's how you say his first name. They're 5'11", 200 pounds, a 4.39 40 right there, and just a solid playmaker for Texas. Really shut down wide receivers for the most part, and had a great season. So I think he's going to be a cornerback that could really help Arizona balance out their secondary there and really get that defense to start holding teams, because they had to score a lot of points, and if they didn't score a lot of points, they were pretty much out of the game. So hopefully for Arizona, this will help secure that secondary a little bit. And they had some good pickups in the free agency market. Dalvin Tomlinson, you might remember, in Cleveland signed there. But they're going to lock down that cornerback position with Barron out of Texas. Jahdae Barron out of Texas, the cornerback.
Excellent. And we saw how well Texas did against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. I don't want to say they shut down Jeremiah Smith, because you don't really shut him down, but they certainly bracketed him enough to the point where they reduced him to what amounted to as a decoy. But even with that, it still wasn't good enough to beat Ohio State. But I think that's a very good pick for the Arizona Cardinals there. That's going to lead me to drafting for the Cincinnati Bengals. They would pick number 17, and based off of what the team needs, and should be no surprise, a lot of it's defensively. They spent a ton of money on the offensive end, probably more than any team has spent on a premier quarterback, a premier receiver, and a premier number 2 receiver. So that leaves a lot of holes that need to be filled on the defensive end. Now, I had a few pretty highly rated folks that have since been drafted. But I don't believe this person's been picked yet, if I'm not mistaken. Because I was gonna go with Mike Green from Marshall, which
Taken.
was a very good pick. And I feel, to me, I'm also trying to type all these out to make it nice and easy for us to recap this later, which no one knew I was doing that. I just mentioned that now. So
you're the man. I was writing them down, and I probably can't read half of my writing. So
Josh put together the nice spreadsheet, so it's easy just to fill in. So the rusher I'm going to go with is Michael Williams from Georgia. I don't believe he's been taken.
He has not. You're good to go.
No, yeah,
yeah. Michael Williams from Georgia, edge rusher. Sam Hubbard just retired, and we don't know what's going on with Trey Hendrickson. That's another situation they have to work out. Now, Hendrickson's under contract. He could very well play the string out, but he may want to leave after this year. So you need to have another good another good pass rusher, either to pair with him on the other side or if nothing else to develop into a premier talent. So with that, it will be Michael Williams from Georgia going to the Cincinnati Bengals at 17.
Have you compared insurance rates lately? Are you satisfied with your current insurance provider? If not, look no further than Ray Felton State Farm, a proud sponsor of Sports on Tap. For a free quote, call his office at 234-284-2996 or visit him online at rayfelton.com.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
We've got the experience, the passion, and the beach to make your event a smash hit. Whether it's a romantic wedding, a lively sports venue, or a rocking high school dance, Troutland Entertainment has you covered. Contact them at 330-414-4261 or email them at troutlandent@gmail.com. That's troutlandent@gmail.com. Elevate your brand with Mako Custom Printing. Mako Custom Printing specializes in creating high-quality spiritware, corporate apparel, and promotional products that make your brand stand out. Whether you need custom printing, graphic design, or an online store for your school or business, we've got you covered. Make a statement with Mako Custom Printing. Visit us at mako.com to start your custom printing journey today. That's MEHCO.com.
All right, we're gonna go all the way from Cincinnati to Seattle, the NFC West. They have the Seattle Seahawks are going to be drafted by Sean Duffy. Sean?
Yes, and looking at Seattle's team as it stands right now, from an offensive side of the ball, I think we're going to go offense here for Seattle. They got Sam Darnold as quarterback, who had a fantastic season with Minnesota last year. You got a really good, a fantastic receiver in Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think took the next step. Now you've paired him with a Cooper Kupp, and now you have a Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I want to see them perhaps upgrade that tight end position for Seattle. And the fact that this guy is still on the board is pretty amazing to me. But Colston Loveland out of Michigan, this kid, he plays tight end, but he realistically could be a slot receiver. He could realistically be a wide receiver. And I think that's what the Seattle's offense needs, is that kind of that X factor, that kind of that guy that goes across the middle, does the dirty work, makes those catches. He was phenomenal in the national championship season. He had a great game against Ohio State. He had some really great games last year. He was always coming up with a big catch when they needed it in those big games. I love this pick for Seattle. I think this makes their offense very potent going in, especially in a weaker NFC West right now. San Francisco is not as good as they once were offensively. Their defense needs to beef up a little bit. Arizona still a little bit iffy. The Rams are there, but again, they lost Cooper Kupp, and you go in the division with Cooper Kupp playing now with Seattle. I think you put a guy like Colston Loveland on there, it gives Sam Darnold that safety blanket that every quarterback loves. And I think you saw it last year with Hawkinson, how effective Hawkinson was for Minnesota with Sam Darnold. I like this pick for Seattle. Colston Loveland out of Michigan.
That's a great pick. And to your point, looking at the list that Josh put together, he's a top 10 consensus top 100 player. So the fact that he fell away to 18, you could argue that Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland they're pretty close as far as ability and talent are concerned. I think there's a certain tight end from our beloved Ohio school, Bowling Green, that might have something to say about it as his own consensus All-American. But Colston Loveland, that is going to be I think that's a great pick for Seattle with what they want to do out there. All right, we're going to go to the land of Baker. Tampa Bay. Noah Jacobson's got that one in the eight for the defending AFC South champions. Noah, who do you got for Tampa Bay?
Well, guys, last year Tampa Bay fell short in the playoffs in the wild card game against the Washington Commanders. But I feel like General Manager Jason Light, he always likes value protection. And I feel like this guy brings exactly what this defense needs to the table. So I feel like with the 19th pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will select Donovan Ezraku, the edge from Boston College, because this guy is exactly what I feel like this Bucs defense still needs. He has 16 and a half sacks last season, and he's one of the most gifted pass rushers in this draft alongside Abdul Carter. But I feel like this guy, Donovan Ezraku, is going to bring that Tampa Bay defense to the next level next year and really help them get back to where they want to be.
Great effort on the name, Noah. Great effort.
Yeah,
Good job.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's a great pick for Tampa Bay there. No doubt about that. All right, let's shift over to Denver. Playoff team last year with a rookie quarterback, with a really good head coach in Sean Payton. So the Denver Broncos are on the clock at pick number 20, and Josh Jeffrey's got that one.
Yeah, Bo Nix was definitely surprised last year for the Broncos. Their defense was also a very good surprise. They were top 10 total defense, ranking 7th overall last year. The one thing that they're missing that has always led to Sean Payton being successful was a awesome running back. Javonte Williams was supposed to be that last year. He did not live up to that hype. So with the 20th pick of the 2025 SOT mock draft, the Denver Broncos are going to select Omarion Hampton, the running back out of North Carolina. The dude's a stud. He's a 3-down bruiser of a back, can not only run the ball, make defenders miss, but can catch the ball out of the backfield.
Outfield.
He's going to be if he's out there too, he can catch the ball. He's going to be a dynamic playmaker for the Broncos. That's really going to help Bo Nix improve in his second year.
Looking at the running back depth for Sean Payton, there's not a whole lot of it. You're right. And Javonte Williams has had his spurts over in his time there, but with Miles Sanders, Deuce Vaughn, and Malik Davis backing him up, it's certainly open for a running back like Hampton to come in and, if not walk in as the number 2, he can certainly challenge for the number 1. And if nothing else, Javonte Williams could spell him instead of it being the other way around.
I think that's definitely going to how it be, especially if you're using first-round capital on a running back, which slowly but surely starting to get back to it being okay, but it's still not a lot of teams are willing to do that.
Which is interesting
No
because
doubt.
a lot of teams are having 2 running backs. So it's like, you start one and then you have the off one. So they're starting to have a few different running backs help carry the load instead of just one. But it still has been effective, I thought, in the NFL so far.
Yeah, that's a great conversation. Certainly to have another for another day, especially with our own running back situation here in Cleveland. All right, Rob, you have the only AFC North team that I don't have. Rob, you happen to have the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21, and
Shador's still on the board.
And, if I'm the Steelers, I'm pretty happy right now. I mean, if they didn't pick a quarterback here, you'd have to be scratching your head like, what are these guys doing? And, I could see the Steelers really here selecting Jackson Dart and for some reason skipping over Shador, but you can't. You just can't. If Shador Sanders is there for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have to take him. Shador Sanders is the Pittsburgh Steelers pick at number 21. So, they get a franchise quarterback. Some might not say he's a franchise guy. It's tough to say right now. But, I think he has a really high ceiling. A guy that, was accurate. Obviously, he did throw a lot of screens and shorter intermediate passes. But during his pro day, he showed he can air it out. And even during the season, obviously he had Travis Hunter who made some unbelievable catches. But he's a guy that can throw the football and has a great work ethic, obviously, with his dad there. He knows how to win games. And and get the job done. Obviously, this year they improved at Colorado. He's a guy that I think is going to have success. He's more of a pocket passer, but knows when the pocket collapses to get out, and he can make throws. So Shedeur Sanders at number 21 for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I can't wait for Myles Garrett to sack him, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times a year. It's going to be great.
With the way that the board has fallen, I think we're probably all in agreement. If it wasn't, I think New Orleans probably would have been the most convenient spot for him to go. But obviously in our draft that didn't happen. So probably the most quarterback needy team that is still on the board at this time was Pittsburgh. So I'm not particularly surprised that would be the pick. And quite honestly, I think that Neon Dion would love to have his son play for Mike Tomlin. I mean, Mike Tomlin we all know what kind of culture he brings.
Yeah.
But he hasn't had a stud quarterback outside of Ben Roethlisberger, which he didn't draft. He inherited Ben Roethlisberger, and for 20 years that was never a question for Pittsburgh. So they're looking to stop that revolving door. And Sanders, I think he has the goods to do it. It's going to be painful watching him have to see him twice a year and then see what he does in the division. But it is what it is at this point. I took Travis Hunter instead of Shedeur Sanders, so I guess I could stop it.
I wonder too, though, like with Pittsburgh, the way they are. I mean, can you see the Pittsburgh Steelers wanting a guy in the spotlight like Shedeur Sanders, or kind of that quiet guy like Jackson Dart that is quiet, that makes a good good throws and is a good quarterback too?
That's a very good point, because Pittsburgh is not a team that drafts name, right? I mean, Ben Roethlisberger was a great quarterback and he turned into a great quarterback. But let's also, I think we'd be remiss here if we didn't kind of lay this out, that we all agreed coming into this that there wouldn't be trades, that there wouldn't be, we wouldn't be talking about trades and that and everything. So we're assuming that there's no volatility here but if there were trades, I think it would happen around this time, picks 20, probably through the end of the draft. You'll see teams, perhaps even a local favorite that wears orange and brown, maybe trading up, seeing if Shedeur Sanders is still available, because it does make a little bit more sense to draft him at the end of the first round as opposed to hoping and praying that he gets past Pittsburgh. But I think you're right, Rob. I think it's if he's there and Pittsburgh needs him and needs a quarterback, because they desperately do. I think their quarterback right now is Mason Rudolph, and they're doing this flirt man with Aaron Rodgers, and who knows where that's going to end up. I think you have to, again, hit the button and take a Shedeur Sanders here. But again, I wouldn't put it past another team trading up maybe to 19, possibly to 20, to make an offer to get Shedeur Sanders, and whether or not Pittsburgh would listen to them, because they may not want. I mean, look, Pittsburgh doesn't necessarily draft these types of players. They don't draft the players with the fanfare and all that. And I'm not saying that as a slight against Shedeur Sanders. What I'm saying is that of all the teams, the most conservative of the bunch really is Pittsburgh. They don't do a lot of they do it gritty in Pittsburgh. And as much as us Cleveland Browns hate it, they are successful at what they do. And while Mike Tomlin may love the kid, they may not make this pick if they're there. They may listen and trade back and gather some assets. But again, I think if all things being equal, absolutely, it's a perfect pick for them right now, because it's an absolute need, and it's the best available player at that point. So,
all right, there you have it. Shedeur Sanders in our draft going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, I didn't lay out any ground rules for this yet, but there are no trades going on in our draft. So while we're not making any trades, we're playing the board as it lies. So that's where we're at. So that takes us now to pick number 22 for the LA Chargers. And there's a couple different ways I was thinking about going with this. I do know that they love themselves some receivers. Vlad McConkey had a fantastic year as a rookie. They have Quentin Johnson, Mike Williams as receivers. If you're looking at wide receivers, or if you look at the tight ends, Colson Loveland just went off the board recently. He would have been a fantastic fit here. I think, unfortunately, in everything that we're looking at, our boy Harold Fannin is not grading out as a round 1 pick. So I'm not going to go against that per se. Interior lineman is also a need here. But you know what? I'm going to go with the flash. I like what I see out of this guy, and he is from your 2024 national champion Ohio State Buckeyes wide receiver Emeka Ibuka is going to go off the board. He is going to go to Los Angeles to help complement the receivers out there. Tremendous route runner. He was you could argue that he was underrated the entire time there, because there was always a absolute monster receiver, whether it's Jackson Smith and Jigba or Marvin Harrison or even Jeremiah Smith. Ibuka is the one who ultimately set all the records, mostly because he stayed there for 4 years. But he is a sneaky good receiver, and I think he'll fit in well with the Chargers running back room there. All right, that takes us now to pick number 23, the Green Bay Chargers, Titletown. Sean Duffy's got them. Who the Packers got at 23, Sean?
Well, this pick's going to be met with such fanfare. It's going to be ridiculous. All those cheeseheads up in Wisconsin are going to be losing their ever-loving mind because they either are going to, again, trade this pick or make a pick that is such a Green Bay pick that I gather that people from Racine to Madison are going to hate me for this, but I'm going to do this the way that the Green Bay Packers have done business forever, because when you look at what Green Bay needs, they need to beef up their wide receivers right now. Christian Watson was a great player, was a great receiver for them last year. Romeo Doubs was hit or miss. Again, they have Jordan Love there, who's starting to come along. He's a dynamic playmaker. He needs some playmakers to throw to. They need a wide receiver, right? And Green Bay, all signs point to a wide receiver. So what do? They're going to go on the other side of the ball, and they're going to take a defensive tackle. My money for the Green Bay Packers is to beef up their defensive line and take – hang on a second. I got to get this name right. Sorry, 1 second.
Waiting.
I'm going to go Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon.
You needed to get that name right?
What?
I thought it was Hannon, so I want to make sure it was right. I'll be fair with you. To be honest with you, had Ibuka not been taken, he would have been my pick at 23, but he was, so I had to scramble a bit, and I wasn't sure if it was him or I wasn't sure of his college. So yeah, Derek Harmon out of Oregon. I think this is a good fit for Green Bay. They need defensive line help. Kenny Clark has been up and down on injury. They can beef up their interior defensive line, and again, you're in the AFC North, and right now the Kings of the AFC North have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And
NFC North.
And we saw what they did last year with teams. You put a decent defense with Detroit, and I'll get to Detroit here in a little bit. But you look at if you're facing Detroit right now in that offense without Ben Johnson, with Ben Johnson, they're running the ball right down the throats of teams, and you need to beef up that front seven. And right now you put a guy like Derek Harmon, who is a very, very effective, very violent player in the middle. He stacks blockers, he sheds them, he gets his hands on running backs, up until obviously that debacle in the Rose Bowl where everybody ran all over them. Again, not a lot of people ran against Oregon, and then they ran into that buzzsaw, which was Ohio State. But again, aside from that, he's put a hell of a career at Oregon together for them. So Derek Harmon, Oregon defensive tackle, is now your Green Bay Packer. Cheeseheads unite. You got a big old defensive tackle.
All right, Derek Harmon going to the Green Bay Packers, and we're going to stay within the NFC North, and we're going to go to Noah Jacobson with the Minnesota Vikings, playoff team from last year. Noah, who do the Vikings got?
Well, guys, Harrison Smith is entering his 14th year for the Minnesota Vikings and by far their best player on defense. So, what do the Vikings do? I feel like they go for a young safety with the ability to impact the game in a variety of ways. And what do the Minnesota Vikings do? They select Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia, because I feel like when Harrison Smith retires, because he's going into year 14, it's going to be that time where Coach O'Connor's going to be like, hey, it's that next man up mentality that you need to step up and be that role like Harrison Smith was. And I feel like Malachi Starks from Georgia is going to be that impact player for the future of this Vikings defense.
That's a great pick. There's another team that resides in the AFC North that I think is looking at a player like him. But I don't think it was expected that he was going to get that far. So Malachi Starks to Georgia. It's a great point about Smith, and if there's really no better player to learn from than Harrison Smith. So that's a good developmental opportunity for Starks, and then to be able to step into that role when Harrison's ready to move on. All right, good pick there, Noah. All right, we're gonna go to Houston. They are going to. We have Josh Jeffy, the number 25th pick for Houston. Josh, who do you got?
Well, if you're looking at the Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud, great rookie season, took kind of a little bit of a step back last year, as well as the whole entire offense. In the offseason, they stunningly traded left tackle Laramie Tunsil to Washington. So with the 25th pick, they're looking to replace him. They're going to stay in the state of Texas and go with Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle out of Texas, to replace Laramie Tunsil. They need a lot of work on the offensive line. That's probably their biggest need. Tank Dell at receiver, he's going to be out for a little bit, suffered a pretty nasty injury. I believe it was late in the season, if not the playoffs against Kansas City. But they still do have weapons. Nico Collins there. So there's still some weapons on the offensive end, but they just need to keep C.J. Stroud upright. And this is hopefully the beginning to doing that once again.
No, that's a good call. And keep him in the state. That's always a good thing. And it's always being able to build that line and keep those skill positions in a position where they can make those plays. I think that's a fantastic pick for Houston. All right, we are at pick number 26. Rob Troutman's going to draft for the Los Angeles Rams. Who do the Rams have at 26, Rob?
Well, the Rams love to go offense, and they usually do. But in this situation, their defense struggled at linebacker. I thought last year Omar Spates was a solid linebacker for him to kind of anchor that. If they had another linebacker there, I think it would be huge. I don't think we picked this guy. Demetrius Knight Jr., the linebacker out of South Carolina. He's 6'2", 245. Just a solid guy with speed that really can fill the gaps. Side to side, he's very quick, very fast, knows how to make the tackles, and I think he would be a key contributor on defense and to start for the Rams. They can put up a lot of points, but their defense has to be able to stop some offenses too. So I think this would be a huge get for them here in the first round.
A lot of people, not to toss this in there, a lot of people, insiders, mock draft guys like ourselves, are actually picking Jackson Dart here, quarterback. Matt Stafford, maybe 1 year left. They got a good young defense. They don't have a second round pick, so a lot of people out there are picking Jackson Dart to go here as well.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea for him to kind of get that experience in back of Matthew Stafford. He can sit for a little bit and he wouldn't be rushed right into a starting role, so that wouldn't be a bad pick either.
No, and Rob, the logic is sound. And where they're at. If you can get another good year out of Stafford, that'll obviously settle them down pretty quick, and then they can reevaluate the quarterback position next year. If they don't feel that this quarterback class is where some of the past classes are at, so the pick you have there is a pretty solid pick. All right, let's go to my. I got the Baltimore Ravens at 27, And we're going to go defense here. We're going to go cornerback Jabbar Muhammad from Oregon. They like themselves some good defensive backs there. He's feisty. He's a good cover corner. He's got technique. He's got the instincts. He's got a high football IQ. And unfortunately, I don't want to give Baltimore too much credit because, quite honestly, they always beat us. But you can't deny how good they are and how disciplined they are, mostly on the defensive end. And I think this is a tremendous fit for them. So Jabbar Muhammad from Oregon will go to the Baltimore Ravens. All right, that's now we're going to go to the defending NFC North champion, the Detroit Lions. And Sean Duffy, he teased this earlier. So now he gets to make the pick for Detroit. Sean, who do you got at 28?
Yeah, I think the big thing for Detroit this year is, and you saw it last year, was just the injury, the lack of depth they had in the defense. Some of that's coming back, obviously, with Aiden Hutchinson going down and a lot of those guys getting hurt coming back. But again, it's an opportunity, I think, for this team to understand what they have on offense. They have Jared Goff. They have a pretty good solid core there. They lost Kevin Zeitler to Tennessee. So there's probably going to look to replace him in the draft, which would be an interesting spot here. But my gut's telling me that Detroit understands that they need to build out that defense. And I think they start along the defensive line. I'm going to go ahead and pair a couple of teammates. We see it on the offensive side of the ball with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. What about taking Kenneth Grant at defensive tackle out of Michigan and pairing him with his old running buddy, Aiden Hutchinson, a former defensive end out of Michigan? These guys played together and won a national championship together, just 2 years ago. So, and a guy like Kenneth Grant does give you that hog molly up front that can, take up space and allow guys like Aiden Hutchinson and their linebackers to operate, and put pressure on the quarterback and also help them defend against the run. Now, with the draft, we have the Bears having a guy like Ashton Genty, who is a phenomenal runner, and now they have to stop the run. So I think picking a defensive lineman here is a fantastic move for Detroit. It's a smart move. As we said about, with Mason Graham, defensive tackles aren't a sexy pick, but they're kind of like a great offensive lineman. You know what? You're not buying their jersey, but you know what? You're going to be damn glad they're there when they're producing for you. So Kenneth Grant, Michigan defensive tackle, is now a Detroit Lion. Short commute for him, just going across old 94, maybe takes 96 going west over to Detroit.
He's a known commodity. And as you mentioned, when you're coming back with a healthy Aiden Hutchinson, pairing him up with a player that he knows how to play with already. And someone who would stay in their home state, there's gonna be always a little bit of extra juice there. And I give Detroit, in this case, I give Detroit credit for keeping, building the fence around their own state and keeping the talent there, which is something that our team sure as hell hadn't really done in like 20 some years since we've been back. For some reason, Ohio State players were not good enough for the Browns up until recently. So I think it's a good pick for Detroit to pair Hutchinson with one of his former teammates and Grant a tremendous career at Michigan. All right, that's what we have. Noah, that was Sean's last pick, mind you. By the way, no, sorry, he's got one more. He's got the Cleveland Browns pick in 33. So we'll see Sean again here soon. But for the rest of us, these will be our last picks of the draft. So at pick number 29, Noah Jacobson's got the Washington Commanders. Just a tremendous rookie season from Jaden Daniels. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the Commanders are going to follow that up. And Noah, who do you have for the Commanders to take there?
Well, guys, the Commanders, they had a great season last year. I mean, with a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach, to go 12-5 to make it to the NFC Championship. Eventually, they fell short to the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. But I feel like the Commanders' offensive line played as well as above expectations. But I feel like they need to upgrade the talent to project Daniel Daniels moving forward, because it just can't be 1 year. It has to be every year that the offensive line has to perform. And I feel like Jaden Daniels is going to get that great player in an offensive line. So with the 29th pick, the Washington Commanders select Josh Simons, offensive tackle from Ohio State, because I feel like this kid is going to bring Nathaniel and really help Jaden Daniels moving forward for the rest of his time as a Washington Commander. So I feel like this is a great pick for Dan Quinn and his team moving forward.
I couldn't agree with you more, Noah. That's a fantastic pick, and knowing where he is on the board, that's a really good value pick for Washington as well. Third best offensive tackle on the board according to the information that Josh sent us. So I think that's a tremendous pairing there. All right. Speaking of Josh, he's going to wrap up his portion of the draft. The Buffalo Bills, they are picking at number 30 here in the first round. Who do the Bills got to supplement Josh Allen and that tremendous Buffalo Bills team?
Yeah, they're tremendous on the offensive end. Last year they averaged over 30 points per game. They finished 10th in total offense. So when I'm looking at the draft, I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball for the Buffalo Bills. They rank 24th in pass defense, 12th in rush defense. So I'm looking for someone that can play that back end, can not only play the pass, but can also step up and play the run as a strong safety, almost like a smaller linebacker. And I'm going to pick with the 30th pick for the in the 2025 SOT mock draft. The Buffalo Bills select Nick Emanwari, the safety out of South Carolina, highly rated. Guy's got great ball skills. He's going to be a player to anchor the back end of that defense for the Bills.
Yeah, offensively, it really hasn't been an issue for them, especially with when they decided to really commit to the run last year. That's the most logical choice is to go in the defensive end and get what would amount to be the quarterback of the defense with the safety there. So I think that's a fantastic pick for the Buffalo Bills there. And then so yeah, and that's almost like dead, really dead on as far as where he's at in the consensus 100 pick there as well. He's at 31. You got him at 30, so you're right in line there. All right, that takes us to the Kansas City Chiefs. Rob Troutman's going to wrap up his draft with the Kansas City Chiefs, and let's see who he takes. Rob, who do you got at 31 for Kansas City?
Well, with the 31st pick of the 2025 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs, who thought they were going to get Josh Simmons. The Chiefs need offensive line. We saw it in the Super Bowl. The offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs absolutely got beat on all fronts. Josh Simmons would have been a guy that would have been perfect for them. He's solid, strong, knows how to pass block. He also does a good job creating holes for the running backs. But the next guy up is Gray Zabel. He's out of North Dakota State, 6'6", 312. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to go for this guy who, in pass blocking, has been really, really good at San Diego State. He was in the Senior Bowl, had a lot of good things said about him there where he did a great job for the quarterbacks and I think got on the list of guys to look out for. And I think the Chiefs need to start up front. I think they need to really build that offensive line for Patrick Mahomes. I think this guy would be a really good pick. They have him at a second round grade here, but they have him going pretty early. So I think if the Chiefs have a guy like this that is there, I think you have to pick the best offensive lineman available in the draft, and you got to really build up front for Patrick Mahomes. So again, with the 31st pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State.
I'd make a kind of a quip about how he's well equipped to play in that cold weather, but they have the Fargo Dome up there. But there are some they do play South Dakota State and Montana and some of those schools. So he is, if there's anyone who's going to be used to the cold, it's probably this guy. And the pedigree that you get from North Dakota State is pretty significant as well. So Gray Zabel going to North Dakota State. I had actually thought about him going to Baltimore because I think that would have been I think that's also a Baltimore type of pick for me. I just opted to go in the defensive end there instead. All right. I have one more pick here. It is for the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. I'm fortunate to be able to call their head coach a former teammate of mine. And by that, I mean I was a teammate of his. So Nick Sirianni, big props to him. I'm looking forward to hopefully it brings the Lombardi Trophy to Mount Union so we can see it. So a lot of the needs that we're looking at for Philadelphia are on the defensive end, and I have a few options here that I'm looking at. Luckily, I think a lot of these folks that haven't been taken yet. As far as some of the edge rushers and the defensive tackles. So I'm going to go with an edge rusher. This one is I think we know what they like to do defensively. They love to get after the quarterback. And I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the camera right now. I just want to make sure that who I'm picking isn't already been taken. I don't believe this person's been taken. So I am going to go with Shamar Stewart.
You're good.
From Texas
Yeah,
A&M.
that's a good pick.
He's got he's got all the tools. He's got length. He's a very athletic. He's quick. And where they're at right now, they could even if he doesn't come in and start right away, which you would want him to as a first round pick, but he's at the back end of the first round, so I think that allows for a little bit of development. If nothing else, maybe he comes in on third down and helps spell some of the other rushers as well. But Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M is the pick for the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles at 32. All right, so that wraps up the first round, not the majority of the 2025 SOT mock draft. But the Cleveland Browns happen to have the first selection in the second round. And with the way that the arrangement worked out, Sean Duffy is going to have the last pick of the night for us. So this guy will be Mr. Irrelevant for our draft, but he'll be very relevant for the Cleveland Browns in 2025. So Sean, who do you have the Cleveland Browns drafting at number 33 in the number one pick in the second round of the NFL draft?
Well, listen, it's no surprise. It's no accident that your boy Champion is making perhaps the most important pick for the Cleveland Browns here, because let's be honest.
No, that was number two.
You're number two. All right.
Ed took Travis Hunter, which now forces me to make the second biggest pick because it's essentially a first round pick anyway.
Numero two
is the quarterback position. I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. Cleveland needs a quarterback. Deshaun Watson can do all the TikTok videos and break all the legs and do whatever he needs to do. He's done. It's a mistake. It's a $230 million mistake. Sorry, Jimmy Haslam. Sell some more pilot gas. Here's what we're going to do, boys. I'm between two quarterbacks here. Right now, you look at one hand, you got Jackson Dart, an SEC quarterback, effective SEC quarterback, very good, can make good throws from 10 to 20 yards, very accurate. On the other hand, I have Tyler, and I don't know how to pronounce this name because I've been calling him Shook. Shuck. Is it Shook? Okay. So Shuck. Tyler Shook started his career at Oregon, backing up Justin Herbert. So he understands. He got hurt a lot of times when he was at Texas Tech, had his best season with Louisville. I like Tyler Shook.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I like him a lot because he played on a really bad Louisville team and was effective when he played. On the other hand, Jackson Dart is an interesting play. So I have to say at this point, I think the Cleveland Browns are going to pull the trigger on Jackson Dart, quarterback, Ole Miss, for the reason of I think all the signs are pointing to them really liking this kid and his decision-making and his ability to read defenses quickly. I think between the two of them, it's close. And I think you give the edge to level of competition and how well they played last year. I think Louisville was a good team, or not a good team, but he was the best player on not a great team. I think Louisville played a very good schedule, but you look at the competition in college football, and really, realistically, as much as we hate to say it, the SEC week in and week out is the closest equivalent to playing NFL caliber team talent week in and week out, and he was very effective there. I would dare say he was probably the best SEC quarterback that in the conference last year, bar none. And I know it's tough, but again, you look at who's coming out from the SEC, and you had a comparison between a Quinn Ewers and a Jackson Dart, and I think Jackson Dart was better than him. I think he's a better prospect. I think he translates better to Kevin Stefanski's offense. And praise you, my son. Enjoy yourself in Cleveland. Get ready, get your darts out. We're playing darts down at Huntington Bank Field.
No mention of Jalen Milroe, huh?
I don't like Jalen Milroe because if you're gonna draft Jalen Milroe, you might as well draft a running back. I don't think Jalen Milroe. He needs one more year in college. If he went back and worked on his craft, I think he would do. I think he would be a top tier quarterback next year. I think Jalen Milroe is coming out too early because he knows the class of quarterback that he would come out with next year, and he's rolling the dice a little bit. I think Jalen Milroe.
But Sean, he was at the Senior Bowl, so he could
have got he could have got a medical redshirt.
Yes, he was at the Senior Bowl. He had a terrible Senior Bowl, terrible. But
hey, everybody's talking him up, man. Like they keep comparing him to Lamar Jackson, which there might be some comparables. I've seen Jalen Milroe this year. Obviously, the Michigan game and the bowl game, Michigan absolutely dominated that game, and Alabama's offense did not look very good. But I watched him a little bit this year, and a lot of Alabama fans were even saying, we're happy he's out of here, is what they said.
Didn't Charlie Fry once win the Senior Bowl MVP?
Yes. So let's while we wrap the show up. First of all, it's been fun. I appreciate you guys doing this. I'm glad everyone was on board. Seemed to enjoy it. But let's wrap up the show with this. We'll all have our opinion as our draft goes. If we had a chance at this 33rd pick, what would we all do with it for the Cleveland Browns? We all already know Sean. We'll go with Jackson Dart at that quarterback. Rob, what say you?
I'd take the top quarterback of the class. And I think, I kind of agree with Sean. If Jackson Dart's there, he'd probably be the guy. But I also say, Jalen Milroe, he has that running ability. He can throw the ball, and he looks like he's worked on his craft in this offseason so far since the Senior Bowl. He looked good at Pro Day. I just don't think he fits the Browns' offensive system for Kevin Stefanski. I think Jackson Dart is a good pick. He's a pocket passer that I think works with Kevin Stefanski and makes a lot of sense there.
All right, Noah, what are your thoughts?
Well, I really like Jackson Dart as the top quarterback available. If the Browns were able to take him alongside, be in the quarterback room with Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. But I also like to probably seek them maybe going after a running back in this pick because you don't know if they might re-sign Nick Chubb in that. So I feel like they might probably go after the top running back available.
Travion Henderson is available.
And they could possibly go after Travion Henderson, another Ohio State, because general manager Andrew Berry likes picking those Ohio State Buckeyes. And he could possibly steal the show and get a running back with our first pick in the second round.
Not bad. Ed, what are your thoughts?
I know Sean had mentioned Quinshon Judkins in addition to Travion Henderson. The only thing I like more about Travion Henderson is that he won't get chased down. Quinshon Judkins can't get chased down. Now he's probably quicker. He's probably got better acceleration than Henderson. They can probably squeeze through the holes a little bit better. But I think Henderson has the more breakaway speed and is more of a Nick Chubb-like running back. But that said, I wouldn't go running back here. I would go another edge rusher to pair with a newly signed Myles Garrett. I would go with Nico Scorton from Texas A&M, the edge rusher, because you can help. You can help set the edge on the opposite side of Garrett. You force the defense to make a choice. They're probably going to choose Garrett for now. And if the rookie can get one-on-one and with minimal chips, then you can really make hell on the quarterback for the opposing team. I think that there's probably a trade to be had that will get the Browns another quarterback. I don't think they need to do it here at 33.
All valid points, and I like the idea. I wouldn't be opposed to a Travion Henderson at this spot. I actually wouldn't be opposed to a defensive player, but I wouldn't go defensive end because they signed a few actually in free agency. I would look, according to our board, I would look more defensive tackle. Walter Nolan from Mississippi, Ole Miss is on the board. I could look at him, but guys, if there's smoke, there's fire. There's been a lot of talk recently of Jalen Milroe. And the last time Jalen Miller was a top quarterback playing like a first round pick was when Tommy Reese was his offensive coordinator just 2 years ago. And I don't think the Browns right now are in a hurry to draft a quarterback and play him right away with Flacco and Pickett. So I think Milroe's the perfect developmental guy not to play. Maybe he can get in a little bit this year, but not to play. Maybe even sit 2 years behind those two guys, Flacco and Pickett, and mold, work on his passing, make him fit into this Stefanski offense because his running ability is tops. He could be a top running back, like Sean said. So he is a perfect developmental quarterback, something that the Browns need, and I think they'll really look hard at that. But I also like the idea of maybe trading back in. They have 2 third-round picks, trading back into the second for a quarterback if they go a different direction here. But with that being said, guys, all around, I think our 2025 SOT mock draft was a success. As Ed mentioned earlier, you'll be able to subscribe to us on YouTube, watch us whenever you want. So follow us on Spotify. Listen while you're going to work. Add it to your mock draft collective. I know a lot of people out there, like myself, and probably like you guys, are really into the drafts, mock drafts, and kind of gets your fantasy fix when you're looking for a draft out of the way here in the springtime. So, good job, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Tough to go through and figure out what works for what teams. They all have a lot of needs, and it's interesting to see who they scout. And sometimes in that first round, you get players' names, you have no clue who they are or where they came from, and that's when you do some hard work, scouting guys from all over the place. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And the NFL draft kicks, it does start next Thursday, April 24th. And first round will be the 24th. The second round will be the 25th. Second and third rounds on the 25th. And then the rest of the draft will be on the 26th. So we are 2 weekends away from finding out really from the home side of things, who the Cleveland Browns are going to draft at 2 and how they're going to supplement the quarterback room with Flacco and Kenny Pickett. All right, for Rob Troutman, Noah Jacobson, Sean Duffy, and Josh Jeffy, my name is Ed Dick. This is Sports on Tap. We want to thank you for watching us, and as always, we are presented by Raymond Felton State Farm Insurance. Make sure to get our buddy Raymond a shout out there. And again, we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we'll see you on the other side.
Have you compared insurance rates lately? Are you satisfied with your current insurance provider? If not, look no further than Ray Felton State Farm, a proud sponsor of Sports on Tap. For a free quote, call his office at 234-284-2996 or visit him online at rayfelton.com.
Whether you're hosting a corporate event, wedding, conference, concert, or any other special gathering, our comprehensive range of services will exceed your expectations and elevate your event to new heights. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. Visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com.
We've got the experience, the passion, and the beach to make your event a smash hit. Whether it's a romantic wedding, a lively sports venue, or a rocking high school dance, Troutland Entertainment has you covered. Contact them at 330-414-4261 or email them at troutlandent@gmail.com. That's troutlandent@gmail.com. Elevate your brand with Mako Custom Printing. Mako Custom Printing specializes in creating high-quality spiritware, corporate apparel, and promotional products that make your brand stand out. Whether you need custom printing, graphic design, or an online store for your school or business, we've got you covered. Make a statement with Mako Custom Printing. Visit us at mako.com to start your custom printing journey today. That's MEHCO.com.